I do not consider myself to be very good at sharpening knives. I've gotten a little bit better over the years with some practice. I still have a lot of learning to do. But one of the things that has really helped me is learning how to maintain an edge with a strop. Just touching it up every once in a while to keep from having to do a full-on sharpening has been very helpful for me in maintaining the sharpness of my knives. This is especially true for some of the newer knives that I've gotten into, like the Bark River Cub here, or the Bark River PSK, which have a convex edge. And I love the convex edge, but it is more difficult to sharpen. And these newer knives also have steel that's more difficult to sharpen as well, like CPM 3B or MagnaCut, which is becoming very popular. Much easier to keep sharp than to sharpen. Now, I used to strop all my knives with just a plain piece of leather, but after I got my Bark River knives and started looking more into maintaining a sharp edge, especially a convex edge, I learned that there's a whole other level of stropping out there with different compounds. You've got the oil-based compounds, and you have the sprays that you can spray on your strops, diamond-infused sprays, spritzers. I don't know, there's lots of different products out there. It's kind of overwhelming. So today I'm going to show you how I upped my stropping game another level beyond compounds by adding a little power. This is an old Sears Roebuck electric motor I found at a farm auction. I'll show you how I restored it and how I built these leather wheels so that I could take my stropping game to another level. Building a leather wheel, pretty simple. All you gotta do, get some scrap leather, find something that's circular, trace out some circles, cut them out. Glue them together. I used some layers of barge glue in between each. Made sure I sanded them up so they stuck together really well, had a good bond. Find center. Now this is very important because I messed up on my first wheel. Find center, punch it out with what you can use. It's very handy to have some bigger hole punches because you're going to want to get this onto a pretty big size spindle or arbor adapter, whatever you want to call it. And you're going to need a size big enough for you to slide that wheel onto that adapter. It's pretty hard to cut that hole out by hand. Small circles in thick leather are very difficult. So if you can make a punch or buy a punch, that's going to be your best bet, or borrow one. Now, I thought this would be a good project for me to try out a little sewing with my new Cobra Class 26 sewing machine. Still need a lot of practice on that, but this was a good exercise in working my way around some really thick leather with the Cobra Class 26, and it performed pretty well. Once I got everything cut out, glued together, and sewed, which didn't take too long, could do that in probably less than an hour. Now, you don't have to sew it if you don't want to. I think it would probably be strong enough just with the glue, but I thought it might add a little bit of longevity and strength to my wheel here. So I did sew. Then I went ahead and put it on the spindle or the arbor adapter, and I took some sandpaper to it to make sure I could get it centered. So I did a little sanding. I even added a little stropping compound to see where I was contacting the wheel. And then I tried to remove those places where the stropping compound was touching the wheel in an effort to get some balance. So I kept doing that until that compound was contacting the wheel most of the way around. The first wheel, I could not get it balanced. I think I just put this hole too off center on this first wheel, and no matter how much I kept sanding and cutting and sanding, you can see how far off center my sewing was. Look how much closer to the edge the stitches are up here than they are down here, and just kind of shows I centered the sewing around my hole that I cut in the middle, so I really just didn't put that hole where it needed to go in the middle. So I made another one. I made it a little bit bigger this time. I wanted to make it big enough so that I could strop my blade without running into the motor, but small enough that I could have it on the tabletop without having to hang the arbor out over the edge of the table. So I think I struck a pretty good balance here. You can see I did a lot better job with my sewing. I took my time and had a better handle on things, what I was doing there. And so it was good practice. It was really good. I actually made this wheel slightly thinner than the first wheel because I was limited on my number of scraps big enough to accommodate this size of a circle. Now let me tell you a little bit about this motor here. It came in really bad condition. There was a wasp's nest up inside there. I had to pull it apart, get it all cleaned out, blow some air through there, and I went ahead and gave it a paint job because it didn't take too long to give it a paint job, and it sure makes it look a lot nicer. So a little bit of paint and a little bit of love, maybe a little electrical tape, and she's running beautifully now. And she looks pretty nice too. So that was a good addition there, and I think that's gonna be nice to have her in the shop now. And hey, the cool thing about this motor is I could use it for anything. I could put a burnishing wheel on here. I could put a drum with some sandpaper. This just adds a little versatility, gives me a way to quickly touch up my knives or my tools, and I think it's gonna be a well-used piece of equipment in my workshop. Should we try the Bark River Cub EDC here? Let's see how it does. Left a little bit of residue on there from the compound. Just gotta kind of wipe that off a bit. So when you get to the point where the strop is not sharpening or not performing like you would hope, it might mean you need to do some maintenance with some actual stones. But I think this is still pretty good, pretty sharp. Try some other tools here. This cheap knife that I got off Etsy from Ukraine. I mean, I guess we can cut paper with this. Not sure that that tells us much, but you know. We'll just keep going on with the theme here. I'm not learning much. I mean, yeah, sharp. What else can we say, huh? Try this way. Sometimes I like to do it like that. I mean, I'm not going to waste any more leather. Well, there you go, guys. It's not perfect, but I love it. And I'm excited to have it around here in the shop to touch up my tools, touch up my chisels and my knives, and help me maintain my edges while I continue to practice and get better at sharpening. Because you know what? It's a lifelong journey for me. And I suspect that for many of you it's similar. So I hope this helped out. Maybe you can do something like this in your shop. Keep an eye out on Facebook for an old motor and start making yourself some leather wheels. Pretty cheap and easy project. A lot of fun. And I'll see ya on the next one.